All right, I guess it's time. I guess we can kick it off, right?
Kick it off because I need to vent about Chase. Like, this is weighing heavily on my mind.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our weekly wellness check where we just talk about Peloton mostly, connected fitness sometimes, what's going on in our own lives every once in a while. And it's meant to just be an open conversation, open discussion. It's not meant to be any stress. It's the weekend, no stressing out. Just anyone's welcome to join the conversation. If you'd like to, just hit the hand on the lower right of your phone and we'll bring you on stage so that we can have a collective conversation. If you don't want to do that, it's all cool. Just hang out in the audience and just listen in and just relax. So, yeah, why don't we just jump into it? The first item on the agenda, of course, is the news that dropped late, yesterday about Chase? So
this is really heartbreaking.
Yeah, Chase puts out on his IG and on Facebook, I think, in multiple places, that he's going to be pursuing some other opportunities. In a one fell swoop in one post, he mentions that. And but you know what? I had noticed that he wasn't really. It didn't seem like he had the same work schedule as he had in the past. So it tells me like this was kind of in the works or, kind of coming is my guess. And it, this was just the day they were going to announce it. But, when I heard it at first, I was a little shocked, but then I wasn't. I started thinking, I know Chase and a little and from his post, Peloton doesn't seem like it really fit who he is, right? I mean, like he seemed like he was so much into service. And, he put a video out a few weeks ago and he talked about how his mom was into like giving and into service. And his demeanor has never been anything other than that. When I talked to him in the studio when he first got there, I talked to him in the studio, and that's what we talked about. We talked about African American issues, and those types of issues in corporate America. That was our discussion when we first met. So I mean, it doesn't. Now, in it occurring and then thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Peloton, you gotta like self-promote and you gotta have like. Feels like you got to have a level of vanity as instructor, and that just never aligned to him in my mind. The more I think about it,
I agree. I think if you asked me to pick who would be the first to move on, I mean, he'd probably be up there just because he doesn't seem to be out there, promoting himself, with Peloton as much as some of the others, and I don't think he had as many classes as the others, although I think a lot of that veteran tread crew is getting watered down with the newer instructors. But the part that bothers me is that, if he's leaving on his own accord and everything is on good standing, I mean, let him have like a send-off class. Like, let people come and celebrate him or make a post celebrating him. But it was announced all of his classes were removed from the schedule. He was already moved to the bottom of, when you go to select a class on the app, he was moved down at the end with Irene and the other instructors that don't teach anymore. And it just felt like an odd send-off for someone who appeared to, be in good terms with the company. I don't know. It just...
That piece of it made my mind wander to... Okay, so his kind of foundational character that I just kind of talked about, and his kind of mission in life that kind of aligned to his mother, and how she's been kind of serving of others. That whole kind of context that I just talked about, I don't think helped him and his classes, because I don't think he self-promoted the way others would because of that whole foundational kind of person he is, and I think his classes were light. I got the impression that it was very few people that stuck and stayed and took Chase's classes. They were always light. So to this point, my mind then goes to, is this kind of, the new Uncle Barry era where it was like, okay, whose numbers are low, they gotta go. And so because of that, there is no nice send-off because he was told you gotta go.
I mean, even if that's the case, I mean, you could still let him have a final farewell class. I mean, unless he wasn't open to that. It's just, I don't know. I always really enjoyed his classes. Every time I took one, I always asked myself, why don't I take him more often? He just has such good energy. I really enjoyed his runs. And I'm glad that, there was someone else that posted that they will keep his classes in the library. So we'll see how long. You should start tracking that, with the deleted classes, just to see, if they slowly start, removing them. But it just, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I hear you. It doesn't, it's a tough one too. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more it just was like, maybe for both of those reasons I just stated, my mind goes to maybe that makes sense. Maybe it's not as shocking the more I process it. Hey, Lynn, how's it going?
I was going to say, I almost wonder if he just didn't want it, because if it was his choice to leave, he'd be like, you know what, just Peloton isn't really a good fit for me. It's not really what I want to do. It's not going in the direction I want. Because I honestly think he was one of the first ones to be extremely verbal about social injustices and about racial inequality. I think that really was like his lane, and I think he kind of started it. At least that's how I feel. And maybe he just decided it just wasn't a good fit. So maybe a send-off wasn't necessarily what he wanted.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at too. Like, whether it's that or it's, Peloton saying, okay, your numbers are low, you gotta go. Either of those scenarios, I could see both him not really wanting a send-off, and I could see both aligning to who his foundational character. Like either or both, I see can see aligning to that.
Did Peloton acknowledge it, or it was only on his social media?
See, that's what was odd to me. I didn't see any acknowledgement from Peloton, and even the instructors. You see them under his posts. But I don't know if that's normal or odd, or I don't know. But I don't see them anywhere else, right? But maybe that's
what kind of makes me think it was his choice.
Yeah.
It's like a Peloton thing. Because I feel like if Peloton let him go. Because who's the other one that left on their own accord? I don't think Peloton announced that either. Was that Mariana?
Yeah, but I mean, she was like around for, I feel like, 2 months, and she wasn't. I mean, Chase has been around since the tread came out, and even if his following may not have been as big as Jess's or some of the others, it's been almost 4 years.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to play that it feels like it's a little bit quiet about the fact. I don't know if that aligns to he chose to walk away or they asked him to walk away. I don't know which one that aligns to. All I know is I don't think he ever fit there. His intentions and purpose, I don't think align to a role where he's got to constantly say, look at me, look at what I did, look how much I know, look how much I can, it doesn't, that level of vanity, it just doesn't, my mind just can't piece that to who I knew him to be. I don't know that it ever made a lot of sense.
Yeah. But,
I didn't.
Go ahead, Danielle.
I was just going to say, I didn't know him personally, but I agree with John. I don't think that it really fit him. I mean, even from watching when he would post things on social media or when he would go live on Instagram, he was really about, like, the other people. He wasn't so much about himself, and he really lacked that, like, that vanity aspect of it that I think they really need to make them popular.
Right.
You kind of need that little bit of, like, look at me, look at me, look at me kind of thing to be a popular instructor. And I don't know that he really had it just, innately. I think it was missing in him.
I absolutely agree.
And that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It just wasn't him.
That's what I'm saying too. I don't know that the bad thing or a good. I think it's a very good thing from a character perspective, like who he was. I admired that about him. So that's why to me, it just feels like it it makes it, surprising when it happened, but after the fact, I'm like, it's not all that surprising. Hey, Lynn, let's get back to Lynn. I didn't get back to you. What's going on, Lynn?
Hey, John. You brought up the idea of sort of like people following or their numbers. I don't know, and I imagine a lot of people took it because it was such an epic ride, but Alex and Tunde's ride, when they just, Tunde at the end of that ride brought up, Alex, you brought me onto this platform when people weren't joining my rides, and I hate to diverge from your agenda that never gets completed, but I thought that was, I did not realize that. I didn't know that was, I don't know if that was actually the origination of that 2-for-1 ride during Black History Month, but I thought that was a really interesting statement, and I wonder about how that impacts like all the instructors as a whole. Like, are they sort of rooting for each other or bringing each other into platforms to ensure that other people are accessing that rider or that instructor? I didn't know that was a thing. So I just wondered if you have any thoughts on that, but also then how that impacts potentially like how they all network together and promote each other's platforms.
Well, I know that I've had conversation with an instructor, remains nameless, that wanted me to ensure that I helped promote another instructor. So so I know that happens, right? For that reason. But internally, I see them like any family, right? Like, so some of your family members you cool with, and other ones you'd be good if you don't see them for a good 10 years. So I kind of see them that way. So I would assume I know there's a dictation. I'm assuming there's a dictation that comes down from Peloton that says in your social media, make sure that you're, liking this or doing this and supporting your fellow instructor. I'm assuming that's occurring. But everything outside of that, I don't know. I think it's kind of their personal choice how much beyond that they want to do to support them. And so that story that I heard from, we all heard from Alex and Tunde sounded to me like that was just kind of an organic thing that, he decided he wanted to support her in that, and so that they came up with that way of doing it. That's a guess,
I wish I could insert a GIF that said, "We are not a family," right now from Uncle Barry, but that helps a lot. I thought that was kind of cool, or I think that is awesome that they, I see them on Instagram and Facebook, like lighting up each other's posts, and, it just makes like a lot of reading into the Christmas party or the weddings or the events, like there's a lot, I guess, that obviously goes on behind the scenes. So it's very interesting about how the dynamics are at play.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Especially, but for a 2-for-1 where you bring someone up, and I was shocked because I love Tunde, and but I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that ride. What's going on, Jessica? How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Because when as soon as I hit the hand to come up there, my sound went away. Like, I can hear you guys. It's just that it's very low. It's really weird. But anyway, I agree with everything you said, John, about Chase. He's definitely not one to self-promote. I also remember a while back, like, he would go on these getaways for, like, solitude, and I got the impression that, and maybe I'm totally off base, but that, like, not that it overwhelmed him or anything like that, but it's got to be kind of hard to be in that when you're not that way. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Like, the same thing. I related with him so well because, when I came up, my heroes weren't were like my grandparents, so like my grandfather, my grandmother, on both sides of my family. Like it was like I hopped a generation, and those were my heroes. And they did like really foundational type things, like give up of everything that they had to make sure that their children made it. And they would have nothing while they were giving everything to their kids, so that you're right, they had like a very clear kind of path and picture. And so when I saw that, I watched that play out. And then I watched when they were in their later years, how when they were ailing, how their children just circled around them because of all those years of them just giving so much, right? I watch it all play. And so then, it made me go, wow, and they were all both kind of married for, 50 plus years. And so that set something in my mind, like it set a foundational thing. It was like, well, then this is what it's going to be. And everything I do is going to be about the next generation of my family. It like set a whole foundational thing. Well, when you listen to Chase's story, and the reason I tell that is because everything I do now aligns to that. It's like with the purpose of trying to like prepare or make something or protect them. It's like, it's just, it's core. When you listen to Chase speak, you hear that. So I can relate to it. Like I hear it real clear. He talks about his mother coming from Haiti, and she couldn't really speak any English when she got here, and she succeeded anyway, and she became successful, and now she gives, and her whole thing is about giving back and programs to give back. And you hear his pride in that. Like it's a foundational, deep thing. So marry that to, I gotta be out on an Instagram post every day telling you about how great I am and why I can tell you how to save your life and you need to come to all my classes. Like it doesn't marry. Like it doesn't match. It doesn't match.
I was wondering if I don't follow very many of the instructors, but I was just wondering if anybody follows, like Matt Wilpers or Dennis, because they don't seem like very much of self-promoters, and I was just wondering, if they're that way as well.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. I've told people many times, I say this all the time, actually, I say this a lot, that Dennis is one of my favorite people ever. He is definitely very similar thing. He was, and you notice, you don't see Dennis out there all over the place with posts all over either. You notice you don't see that? That to me relates very well to a Chase. Now, Dennis was able to gather much more of a following. I don't know what the disparity is there as to why that happened, but you're right. It's a very similar thing.
Well, it happened because there's more people on the bike and there were more members. So, Dennis walked into a platform that had millions and millions of users and subscribers, whereas, Chase was around when, the first tread classes had 30 people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Dennis also has yoga too, in addition to being on the bike. So
right.
He's got yoga, he's got Power Zone, which has a huge following.
Right.
And then just the fact that he's on the bike, which is so much larger than the tread. And then I don't know if you guys noticed, but over like the last few months, Dennis has even been going live on Instagram.
Wow.
Which he'll tell you is like, he's like, this is not my thing, but I've caught him live on Instagram a couple of times. So I'm kind of curious as to, I really believe that Peloton is pushing this agenda, and this was before Uncle Barry popped on.
Right.
Of them being more active on social media. I noticed it with Dennis. I noticed it with Robin.
Right. But
but
you noticed the conflict, right? You noticed the collision with Dennis. You see it, right? Where that's just not really him, but I know
it's not at all.
Right.
He's so uncomfortable when he's on Instagram Live. But I mean, he has like great conversation and it's really enjoyable, but he is definitely out of his element.
Right, and I love that about him because I know it comes from a rooted place within his character. You know what I mean? It's not that he has any issue with, putting himself out there or talking publicly or talking to a broader group. He has no issue with that. It's a foundational thing, right? And I love that about Dennis. I loved it about Chase, but those things don't mesh, I don't think, with what Peloton pushes.
What about the fact that starting quite a while ago, he really was not doing very many classes? Like, really, I mean, I remember when I had the tread, and he was like the first instructor that I really related with, and I just so much enjoyed the boot camps. And then he sort of just stopped doing them, and it seemed like his classes were dwindling down, and maybe I'm wrong about that because maybe I'm just like choosing not to run or whatever. But does anybody have anything to say about, it's like, do you think it was maybe because he's got so many other different interests that he wanted time to do those things? Or do you think, I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I've got some questions around that. But let me pull in Leslie first. What's going on, Leslie?
Hey, I'm really learning. I'm learning this about Chase right now, and I'm really disappointed because I really liked him, and he was like very spiritual, very genuine. I just liked his personality and his positivity. So it's just really disappointing to hear this. I'm just really surprised.
Yeah. That news kind of broke on Friday. So yeah, we're all kind of just processing it. So yeah, and kind of talking through like, yeah, how do we think this kind of came about? But it's not all that. It was surprising to me as well, Leslie. I agree. But as I think about it, it's not as surprising. What's going on, Jamie? How's it going?
Hey, everybody. I had raised my hand when you guys were talking about the instructors supporting each other. I was on a ride this morning with Camila Ramon, and she made it a point to say, and I can't even remember why she said it, but how that Alex had been so incredibly supportive of her throughout her onboarding and really helping to try and, promote her within Peloton and the community. So she said he had just been amazing behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. And she mentioned that during her 15-minute ride this morning. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really core to Alex. I mean, he appreciates, where he was and where he is and that journey and how far he's come. And I see that as in him too. Like he feels a responsibility to reach back and kind of share in that success and try to, bring people along. That's one of his sayings, right? He speaks to that.
Yeah.
So, that doesn't surprise me at all. That's kind of what again, I've been talking like, that's a big thing for me, like things that are like core to your foundational character. I think that's one that's core to his foundational character. Like that, so you just see it come from him, right?
Yeah. And boy, he hit me in the feels during the ride today when he was talking about his dad. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. He's hit me, like, and listening to him talk on some of these rides, he's hit me a few times before with, in my heart a little bit too, or in reading the story over. There are similarities in his story, extreme similarities in his life's path and his journey to mine. So it's not only it hits me in the feels, like I can relate to it, which kind of hits me in the heart. So yeah, he's you guys already know, like he's my favorite, so I can relate.
That was it. So
yeah, Jessica, to your point, I think that there could be, more at play, like here, like I don't know. I know that it could be that his classes were dwindling because he was working on some outside thing and thus didn't have the time to do those classes. It could be his time was dwindling because they were, shifting him away from these things because of the numbers. I don't know. It could be that he made the choice to shift away with the change in kind of temperament of Peloton. And I'm talking, we watched that happen prior to Barry McCarthy coming on, we watched that changing as they started to struggle, and they started to have to do more things to lock things down and tighten things up. And we saw last year, Chase was very vocal, and so was the company. And then this year they were very quiet. So, I mean, his stuff could have been dwindling because he was kind of moving himself away because that did not align to who he is, right? It could be that as well. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it was. All I know is no matter what the reason was, I don't think it was ever really a good fit based on his character.
John, are you able to at all speak to, I know that they've had instructors leave based on some issues or controversies that are sort of very well known or people know of. And then they've had folks sort of just move on. I know there have been some recent ones or European ones. But is there sort of a typical way that Peloton historically has handled an instructor's departure?
Yeah, and there's a few people that have posted me messages speaking about this as we're talking here. Typically, the Peloton would do some form of send-off, even when it was a little, dicey, the disconnection. When it was extremely kind of, an extreme, no, they didn't do a send-off. And we've seen a couple of those when somebody did something extreme and they had to just let them go. And, of course, there's not a send-off there. But we've seen where it was it was a challenging type of relationship between Peloton and the instructor. We saw that with Stephen Little. We've seen it where folks kind of left on good terms. And all those scenarios that I've seen, other than those of recent, yeah, there was some type of a send-off. But I got to tell you, I'm not so surprised about there not being one here, not because of why he may or may not have left, but because I think it's a new day with Peloton. I mean, back then, they were the big bad boy at the top of the mountain and everything was up and they could just reach in their pocket and pull out $100 bills all over the place. I mean, it was just a different day back then. And now they're challenged and the stock is, down ridiculous amounts and they're trying to restructure and they just had layoffs and they got an earnings call coming up that I'm scared to death about. Like, right, yeah, I just think it's a different day. So from that perspective, I don't know that there would be a nicey kind of send off for anybody. I don't know if it's particular to Chase.
And they said that, Uncle Barry said we're not a family. So
that's what he said.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there'd be a send off. Like deuces, see you, Chase, have a good life.
Right? I mean, to me, that's like the temperament now. So that's why I'm not even surprised by that. I think it's not the norm. It's not what they did in the past, but I think it might be the new norm. It could be the new way they do it now. So I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. Not all that surprised as I think about it, but I look forward to see what he gets into. I'm gonna be paying attention, watching, seeing what he's trying to do, and because he's got a mission and he's got a direction in his mind. He's got a purpose. You can see it and hear it every time you talk. Anytime I ever talk to him, you can hear it. I knew it. This sounded like just a stop all along. This wasn't the destination. It never was. You know what I mean? So I'm not all that surprised. Anyway, unless anybody else has anything more on that, I think I'll jump into the next topic. And that is about the new Peloton podcast, Fitness Flipped with Tunde. Now, okay, I'm going to kind of give my opinion, and then I'll let you guys step in. Please, no one throw any tomatoes at me. Now, first, this kind of rolled out a couple weeks ago. I think inadvertently, you could see it on Spotify. Pillow Buddy announced, there's on Spotify, you can see this new podcast, Fitness Flip, Peloton. And then as soon as it was out there, I start posting about it on Instagram and Facebook because I saw Pello Buddy posted that. And next thing I know, everybody's going, that link don't work. And then I go back there and sure enough, they pulled it. And so we knew it was coming, but they had pulled it. So now they finally re-released it. They had their first episode, I think on Tuesday, right? Yeah, on Tuesday, their first episode, and that was in an interview with celebrities. And then they had their second episode on Thursday, which was meant to be a community member interview. The first one was like 36 minutes or so. And then the second one with the community member on Thursday is short. It's like 11 minutes. So I listened to the first one. I love Tunde to death. That's my girl. Got her back 100%, no questions. But whoever structured and produced that, I don't think they did her any favors. It just, they have her in that, that thing sounds like a late night infomercial. I'm just being honest. Again, this isn't about Tunde. Tunde's the bomb. Tunde is off the chain, 100% superstar. But I wasn't a fan of that production. So with that said, what do you guys think? Uh-oh. See, y'all scared. My bad. I ain't mean to get y'all in trouble. I think I said something that's going to get y'all in trouble.
John, what did you not like about it?
I didn't like that it sounded like it was intended to sell me something. It didn't sound like something that the community requested, and thus now we're going to now collectively work towards gathering an answer to that. It sounded more like a self-promotion, a Peloton self-promotion based infomercial, where people within it talk cliche, and they add a lot of generic, meant to be fun sound effects, and the collective production then ends up just mirroring something you would listen to if you turned on your TV at 3 a.m. That's why it didn't sound new. It didn't sound original. It didn't sound like it was about me. It felt like it was about Peloton, and it was an infomercial. That's what I didn't like about it. That's what I didn't like about it.
All right, so I listened to the first one. I didn't listen to the second one. I did find the first one a little bit overproduced. I did not care for the segment with the author because it seemed like they were recorded separately. It seemed like it was like Tunde asked her questions and then they recorded the author's answers, or they took sound bites of the author from somewhere. But I do think that when Tunde actually does interviews, that's where she shines.
Right.
So I think the segment with Phoebe, I think that was really good because there was actual live interaction between the two of them, and it was recorded live. Like you could tell because they were back and forth with the conversation.
Right.
Whereas the other one just felt like canned answers.
Right. Yes, I agree with everything you just said. And I guess I was looking for, I don't know what I was looking for. I think subconsciously I went into it expecting it to be less produced and more spontaneous. But then someone said to me in my group, like, John, I mean, they're a big company. How in the world could they create something that was just spontaneous like that? They would have to be overproduced like that, right? And they think they're right. After they said that, I was like, I think I might have had an expectation that just wasn't real life if you're working for a big company, right? But I think that's what I didn't like about it. I had an expectation of more spontaneity with Tunde and the person she was interviewing, and the whole holistic kind of production of the podcast.
And I think if they let her do her thing with the interviews, I think they'll have amazing results. Like she just did it on IG Live with, I think her name is Boz St. John, maybe. I think it was just.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It was incredible.
Right.
Like it was so good.
Yes, I like that.
Allow the podcast to go in that direction. with her actually interviewing celebrities every single time. Or even like I said, like the interview with Phoebe was really good.
Right.
So they let Tunde be Tunde and let her do her thing. The podcast will like be incredible.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
I definitely agree, Danielle. And also, John, you know that they're not going to let Tom on there just explicit. It has to have a certain amount of finesse.
Right.
But I think, Danielle, I agree. That live was fantastic. And I think when Tunde hears her first I imagine the first one has a lot of nerves and a lot of touch-ups and a lot of edits. I think it's going to be pretty good. Also, I did do it as a walk. Sorry. And I really actually enjoyed it as a walk. So that changed my perspective versus the first time I listened to it in the car.
Oh, okay. That's a good perspective. Like, I want to talk about that in a second, but let me get some more people in. What's going on, Gail? How's it going?
Good. How's everyone today?
Doing good. Doing good.
I hated everything about it.
Yeah. See, you're like me.
Yeah, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and the thing that bothered me most about it was a lot of the podcasts that I listened to that had interviews as well as sort of discussions are much more conversational.
Right.
I found this so scripted in so many ways, and it was a really tough listen for me as a podcast. I can perhaps totally get Lynn's point in that as a walk it may have sounded different, but listening just as a podcast, I found it almost unlistenable for me in terms of an enjoyment level.
Yeah, that piece. I love that you mentioned that piece about it's in outdoor walks, because I think that there's some type of innovation in that, because we know Apple Fitness Plus already has like their kind of walking. I can't remember the name of it. They got their series of walks with celebrities, and I kind of saw this offering being like Peloton's competitive component to that, to say, look, we've got this too, but there's an innovation in this, that it's not only that you get it on our platform, you can take this, if you want, you're not even one of our, members or subscribers, and you can go listen to it yourself out on, in the podcast ecosystem somewhere, whatever podcast service you use. I thought that combination was pretty slick, as a means to potentially getting people to learn and know who these instructors are, which might then drive them to checking out the app or a product. So I thought that is like some slick stuff right there. And I think that Tunde is a superstar. I actually think Tunde is bigger than Peloton. Like, I don't think, similar to the Chase for varying reasons, I think Tunde's bigger than this. And I don't know if that's ever going to manifest, but I think she's bigger than this place. So there's a level, because of that, there was a level of disappointment in me relative to the production, knowing how bright her star is, right? I'm going, I don't know about that.
I mean, I think the fact that she's like the first fitness personality to be a Nike ambassador, I think that clearly indicates that she's bigger than Peloton.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Megan, how's it going?
Hi, John. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
I have a different take on it. I really loved it.
Okay.
I do agree that it was a bit overproduced with the music, and Tunde did sound a bit nervous, as to be expected, and it came across kind of clunky, but nothing that made me feel like, oh, this is a bad idea. I just think that, it's going to take a few episodes for them to really figure it out, and I think that you do have to put it out there, hear it back, and then adjust from that point. But I really like the potential of it. I would love to see her delve into more topics. I think I posted in the group that I thought opening the podcast with this interview about stress, but it only being 15 minutes, just felt very surface level and too short. I would have liked a longer conversation around stress. I thought that her conversation with Phoebe was amazing, and it really I wasn't expecting that Phoebe Robinson would be the type of celebrity she would have on the podcast. I kept thinking, oh, it's going to be all of these like big name celebrities who are Peloton folks.
Right.
Like people that I'm not at all interested in hearing from. And I 100% agree with Danielle that her interview with Boss, I don't remember her last name, but was so good. And that's what I'd like to see from Tunde on the podcast. And like Boz is the kind of person that I would like to also see her interview. And I wanted to say just one other thing that, so the podcast came out. I thought it was great. Subscribed and was like, I'm looking forward to this. And then we get this news yesterday that Chase is leaving. And
Right.
I kept thinking to myself, this is the kind of podcast that I thought Chase could do.
Right.
Like that he could have been this sort of person for Peloton. Not that I think that Tunde shouldn't be, but I started thinking about why wasn't he given a podcast opportunity? Because I think that he would have been bringing something different than Tunde, but also around wellness, around inspiration, around fitness to the platform.
I had never thought of that, Megan, but man, are you right. Oh, yeah, that would have been another level if that had been had aligned for him to have autonomy and to have his own podcasts relative to Peloton. Oh, my gosh, that would have been off the chain.
I mean, I think he could have done great on a podcast. I think he would have been an awesome fit, but I think he doesn't have the fan base that Tunde has. So I think they kind of play off of that. Like Tunde has, multiple facets to her, including a much larger, I believe she has a much larger fan base than Chase does. I don't know this for sure.
Right.
But I think that Peloton looks at that and says, who's going to pull us in the most people?
Right. And
I mean, she's been on Good Morning America and she's been all over.
Yeah. One last point, and then I want to bring Lori in. That I think that Tunde clearly wants this type of work. I mean, I went and saw her interview Common in New York in person, and I thought that was incredible. Like that was an amazing interview. We all had a blast hanging out and watching how that interview kind of evolved, and it seemed very interactive, and it was very spontaneous. And I think anyone who was there who saw that, to marry it to this, I think probably that might have been where my expectation came from. Like I don't know, but yeah, I think she sits well in that type of a skill set, and that might be why this is where they placed it. But there's to your point, Megan, and to the person in my group who mentioned about kind of the constraints and the lack of autonomy because they're working for this company that has these limits, and then the timing of it, right? They're making it an outdoor walk. And so I think they're trying to limit it in some way. And if you notice, I think in the outdoor walks, it's listed as like a 30-minute walk or something to that effect. I feel like they were trying to constrain it to like whatever that sweet spot is of the timing of a class that a person will take. Can't be 45 minutes or an hour because not as many people take that, and you don't want it to be too short. And I think 30 minutes is probably the sweet spot. So I think they intentionally tried to make this right around 30 minutes. But then the limit, the negative effect is what you said when they start talking about multiple topics and they start talking about stress. They can't spend a lot of time on that. Like, right? I think there's like probably some gaps there just because of that, but I don't know. I'll listen to it with a different ear this coming Tuesday without so many expectations, and I'll see how I think. Hey, Lori, how's it going?
Good. How are you, John?
I'm doing good.
I'm just glad the snow's not shovelable so far.
Woo, me too. Oh my goodness.
I'm over it.
I am done with it. I saw it. I got up this morning and saw it snowing. I had to head out and go to the hardware store, and I'm walking out of the store and the snow's hitting me sideways, all in the eyes. And oh my gosh! Like, is it spring yet? Please, spring.
Yeah, and then the wind. The wind really isn't making us happy. We're like, seriously, it's
right.
We're good.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think just another point and another viewpoint. When these podcasts were originally engineered or designed, it was under the old realm. And I will say that experience levels in some of this, when it comes to podcasts and anything outside of maybe the fitness arena, wasn't by any means somebody's realm of, ability. So they probably looked at a bunch of podcasts and said, well, we're gonna model, and then we're gonna take Tunde, which I totally agree with Danielle. I don't think Chase had the following, unfortunately. Even though when we had the tread, he was my go-to, and I'm happy for him, and I hope he does what makes him happy, because I do think that at the end of when we returned our tread, and we did that for many reasons, but there was just his enthusiasm had gone down. So now you take the podcast realm and you say, okay, we're going to put Tunde in. We need to get people back into, wanting to buy a Peloton. So we'll pick the superstar of the bunch, and she's already out there with her own book, and she's doing all these things. And so when you take that and you say to somebody as an executive, okay, you and your team are going to go design a podcast, I just think that wasn't their forte. They should have brought somebody outside in to kind of help them design and the architecture of what the podcast would be, and kind of let it free flow, because most successful podcasts are free flowing podcasts with a little bit of structure mixed in. Oh. And hopefully, because, and again, with the direction of the company, the stock, it's not doing great, the morale, everything is against anything succeeding right now in terms of newness, except maybe the rower. I know that everybody wants, but I think that having somebody who's knowledgeable of the digital platform other than fitness might change the course of how this podcast is going to play out. Because that episode, I would think, if it didn't, it was either recorded or it was structured prior to the changes. And I think there just wasn't enough knowledge and experience to put podcasts into the mix by the old team. So maybe the new team will mix it up a bit. Maybe with all these people coming in from different varying digital entertainment platforms, not fitness focused, that you may see that the podcast slowly emerges or kind of becomes organic in structure, and they allow Tunde a little bit more control. That's just my take on it.
You make some extremely good points there. I hadn't thought of a couple of those things there that we've seen Peloton do this in the past, right? Where they in-house attempt to provide some type of new capability that maybe or maybe not, they may have not had the right expertise to do that. Like, we've seen that pattern has played out before. And so you saying that, I can believe it. Like, if folks internally did their own research and then kind of laid this thing out and then designed it like a show, when all the most successful podcasts aren't really designed like a show. They're designed like a very free-flowing, spontaneous conversation. So that in and of itself is contradictory. So you're absolutely right. And someone else might come in and say, at this point and might switch that up. Or maybe they have some other mission. Maybe they're good with it sounding like a show. They just want to have another category. Like, I don't know, but I'm interested to see how it plays out in the coming weeks. We'll see. Anyway, unless anyone has any more on that topic, we can move on to the next one. And that is One Peloton Club. So Uncle Barry he done got it going, y'all. He got a rent-to-own mechanism with Peloton, and I think it rolled out yesterday, right? I don't know where it rolled out. I think it's just in a few, Texas, Florida, Minnesota, and Denver. Showrooms in those 4 places. You can walk in to the show. You have to walk in. You can't go online. You got to walk into one of the showrooms listed, and you can say, you know what? I don't want to purchase this bike for $14.95. I just want to rent, I just want to lease it or whatever they call it. And you can then pay, they had a scale. It's between $60 and $100 per month. I don't know why there's that scale or what's different between that scale, but whatever it is, you can just pay that monthly, and that includes your subscription to the content. You didn't have to put down $1,500, and whenever you're done with the bike, they'll come pick it up if you don't want it anymore. So that to me, I thought sounded interesting. I wasn't sure whether or not, how much is that going to push the needle? It sounds like they're like testing this out, which is why it's only in these small, 4 markets. And if it works out, I guess they'll expand it. But I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on it. Any thoughts? No.
Did they say how much it was going to be?
They did. They said but they only gave a range. They said between $60 and $100. So I don't know what that means. Does it mean if you pay the $60, you never have an opportunity to buy? Does it mean that if you pay the $100, at some point in the future you can buy? I'm making this stuff up. At some point in the future you can buy? Does it mean that 60 is low end, but if you pay at the higher end, closer to 100, you get free upgrades every time they produce a new screen or a new bike? I don't know, but they gave a range, which tells me there are different kind of increments of value based on what you select.
It seems like a rent to own almost. And are they going to apply the money that these people have paid for their monthly rental towards the ultimate payment of the bike? Now, 60, is that the original bike, and 100 and something is the new bike plus? And do you get automatic upgrades of the bikes when they come out with new things? I think it seems to me rushed. I don't know. It seems like they're going to dilute their brand versus increasing the value of the brand. We're already here. So, and to me, it just seems like they have a lot of inventory that they need to get rid of, and that's kind of just a desperation thing, especially the track that Peloton took to get here. Yes, it's been an awful year and a half, and we can all belabor those points, but when you go to this rental model, the bikes, how are they going to come back? What condition? Are you going to sell refurbished bikes to people now that are buying bikes when you're taking these bikes back? And how is that rental structure if somebody defaults? What are you going to go in now and send a repo person to go pick up the bike? I think, to me, there's just a lot of risk, and it doesn't seem very well thought through.
Yeah, I'm. This is not my expertise. I don't know anything about this world or model, so I don't know what it is or isn't, and where the value is or isn't in it. But the idea of it being rushed could align to kind of historic Peloton pattern and working, or it could align to what Barry McCarthy said: the slowest we're going to go is fast. I don't know which one of those things it aligns to.
So, not to interrupt, I can give my perspective on Uncle Barry since I know him fairly well.
Okay.
So I get the point that people are concerned that they're going to rush this to market and be inundated with returns. This is why they're testing it in limited markets and why they have to make you walk in. So what Barry's doing is taking the traditional consumer insights approach to understanding price sensitivity. And irrespective of kind of the buzzword-laden PR response to this program, he's implementing something that he wants to get data from the long term.
Yep.
And understand like what people will pay where and why. So that means they have to have in-store conversations. And the likelihood of them churning is low, and Peloton's not going to be inundated with returns because they're limiting the spigot of who can buy. I agree with this approach, and I think it's good to see them actually do something going forward versus, like I think I posted in the group, the Facebook page, pontificating and all saying kumbaya while nothing happens.
I think
let's move forward.
Right. I think the point you're making, Mike, actually makes a whole lot of sense when you consider one thing that I forgot to mention. And that is, only in a couple of these places are they paying the delivery fee? And then in others, they're charging $250 for delivery. It's like, it's not the same thing across all four of these markets. So that point actually aligns to what you're saying, Mike. It's like they're testing out waters, like who will pay what and for what and how many people. You're right. They're clearly testing it out.
And on the delivery thing, I think it comes down to two vectors. It's delivery radius, so they need to charge where they have to have a bigger radius, and also probably where they have XPO or actually proper Peloton delivery.
Yep.
That's my guess.
That makes sense. Hey, I missed you, Kari. What's happening?
Not much, John. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Great. I wanted to hop in on this one because I had a few questions that came up. And it sounds like Mike kind of cleared it up, but I do like the fact that they're testing this out and trying to see if they can figure out a different segment of a customer base. And so I'm kind of curious as to how they picked out the markets to test this in. And then also I was starting to think about commercial and Precor. Would this be something that could potentially go into that space where there's short-term ownership of the product and then they could give it back or potentially shift it out for something new in a shorter period of time? I don't know if that's something that they could be thinking about here in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if their intent is. It probably should be, but I don't know if the intent is for these at-home bikes, these same models, that equipment to be in commercial facilities. Like, I don't know if it is. I'm not sure, but if it is, yeah, you're right. I guess you could kind of work that into whatever that plan is. I'm still waiting for the commercial plan. Like, I don't know what their intent is around that. I don't feel like I've seen anything with regards to the Precor acquisition. I know Precor has relationships with lots of gyms. I don't know what that's going on with that. It seems like it's just, status quo. I was hoping for like more integration of, Peloton equipment, Peloton content into Precor software and the products that they're delivering to these gyms. Like, I haven't seen anything of that. I don't know what's going on with that. But if something happens with that, then yeah, maybe you're right, Kari. Maybe that'll align, but I don't know. I just haven't seen anything, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's something that definitely needs to be figured out, and it could be a pretty big opportunity. I think I saw one video with Jess in a gym, and I don't know exactly where she was at, but it looked like there was 5, 6, 7 Pelotons in that gym.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what And I've seen something like that too. Like, they introduced like they were going to go back to that model of, remember they pulled all the bikes out of the hotels and then they started back a program to push them back into the hotels. And so I kind of assumed there was something like that, like, either like, hotel gyms but I'm really talking about like big box gyms or like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too grandiose, but that's kind of what I was hoping was going to come out of the Precor stuff. Well,
Uncle Barry's moving fast. He's got to come up with something.
Uncle Barry, he ain't playing out here. Uncle Barry's just dropping stuff. You know what I mean? Just dropping it. I'm expecting next week we're gonna hear something else because it just feels like it's just been news every week. Another thing on this point. Didn't they just release something? I saw Crystal O'Keefe posted it, that it was showing like areas of your body that you worked in some fashion. I think it was in the app. I don't know what they called that, and I'm kind of speaking without having the details of it. But I saw something like that, right?
Yeah, it's not out to everyone yet. Only certain people have it. I think they're testing it.
Okay, because what interested me with that is they mentioned that as it related to Peloton Guide. So I remember them mentioning that. So their advertisement around Peloton Guide mentions that, and now we're actually seeing that component, which makes me go, is the guide about to drop like, in a hot minute? I think we kind of knew it was, but it sounds like we're really close. Which, not to say that that's going to mean a whole lot. I don't know. I don't don't know if anybody's going to be all excited about the Peloton guide, but seeing that made me think Uncle Barry about to tell them to let that thing go. All of a sudden next week we're going to see the Peloton guide.
But didn't they say on the last call that the plans for the guide have somewhat changed and that it was going to be limited marketing and availability, not full on or going, 1,000% on its release?
Gail, I don't remember the specifics of that, but now that you say that, I think you're right. I think I did hear that. So yeah, maybe it'll be more of a limited kind of release and limited access to it. Something, aligning with what we just saw with one Peloton Club. But yeah, you're right. It may not be as big as I would have expected. But I am getting the impression that we're about to hear something based on that component about the areas of your body that you work. That element that seemed to align with what they said was going to come out with the guide. So we will see. Here, let me do a quick room reset and then we'll jump into we've gotten through 3 agenda topics. You know what I mean?
Wow, in an hour. And I also just want to point out, I don't know if anyone else realized this, I think it's a new feature. There's like a chat, like a news feed now. So if you don't want to come up and speak on the lower left-hand side of your phone, there's like a little quote that says number 18, and if you hit that, there's actually kind of like a live chat feed going on, so you can join the conversation there too. Right, and if anyone has any questions and they don't want to come up but they do want to ask the question, please type it in that chat and we'll try to get to that there as well. Also, while I'm doing the room reset. Actually, let me do that first, and then I'll get into this. So this is our weekly wellness check where we talk a lot about Peloton. We talk about connected fitness. We talk about what's going on in our workouts. It's meant to be an open, honest conversation and just light conversation, nothing stressful. So if you want to join the conversation, please just hit the hand on the lower right of your phone and we'll bring you up on stage, make it a collaborative kind of inclusive conversation. If you don't, you just want to listen in, that's all cool. It's all meant to be no stress. Just hang out in the audience. These sessions are recorded. After it's over on Clubhouse, you can go back and listen to it as well if you like to. And then we post them to all podcast platforms. So if you want to listen to it later on, you can do that as well. As Tammy just mentioned, the chat feature in the lower left. There's also a chat feature on Spotify. So if you have a Spotify account, when you see these episodes there, I post a question every week relative to the discussions that we talk about under the episode, and you just go into the description of the episode on Spotify. At the bottom, you'll see the question, and you can chat. You can answer that question or give your opinion on that question. You can also leave a voice message right from within Spotify on that particular episode. So just FYI, if that's something anyone here is interested in.
I just want to claim that because I told everyone on Instagram that I was going to play the music for people to shut up and get off the stage, that's why we've gotten through 3 agenda topics already. I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it right now. It's my win. That probably is your win. I'm with that. I actually agree. I think that probably is what it is. Okay, look, this next topic is something that I originally thought I was supposed to be a part of and then learned I wasn't supposed to be a part of it. But anyways, the email that came out that said, that looked like a spam email when I first saw the first person that posted it, that if you click here, Peloton was going to give you some free apparel for your success in your workouts in 2021. And so when someone first sent me that and said they got this email, I was thinking, don't click on that. You sure that's from Peloton? and then I guess everybody started getting them. So we knew, yeah, that really is from Peloton. And then someone told me it was because they hit 15,000 minutes, and it was anybody who hit 15,000 minutes in 2021. Then I heard, no, it wasn't everybody who hit 15,000 minutes. It was just random. It's just whoever they decided to send it to. So now I'm all confused. I don't know who was getting this email or why or what. Does anybody have any clarity on that? Did you guys get the email?
I got it. I can't wait to get my free apparel that they can't sell.
Yeah, I said it was basically like what I've been saying all these past few weeks, that they just have so much stuff that they're just trying anything. They're brainstorming. They're like, okay, well, this sounds cool. Like, let's just get it out the door. You know, because I bought a bunch of stuff like a couple weeks ago for like $100 that I would have never bought before. And now they're just really trying to get it out there. I said in the Facebook group, I don't know if they're eventually going to phase it out or they're going to go back to the old school model that you guys were talking about, where it was very limited with limited amounts and limited drops, because they just went too crazy with it before.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking that too. Is this a scenario that's similar to the bike, where they just ended up with way too much inventory, and because they have so much inventory, they're trying new ways to get rid of it, and so we're just seeing the same effects with the apparel that we're seeing with the discounts and new models of selling the bike, right? And I think that's kind of what you're saying, Deidre. I think, right, that they're just trying to get rid of it. They just got too much.
Yeah. Basically, it's sitting somewhere. They ordered too many units of everything, thinking that people were going to just flock and keep buying every 4 weeks. You're going to buy like new stuff, which is crazy.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, we're paying for warehouse space. We already got the stuff. People aren't buying like they used to. We just need to get it out the door so we're at least not losing, because we keep storing stuff or whatever the case may be. It must work out cheaper for them to just get rid of it and figure out what to do moving forward after that.
Now, the kicker will be if they send you something completely different. Because when they had the stuff, when they did they were supposed to have like a live chat or something for tread people or whatever, and then they postponed it. And then I got a link for that to get something free, and it was a shirt that you couldn't buy. So we'll have to see what they send out. Like, are they going to send out stuff that's kind of hanging around and stuff, or did they send out something completely new?
That's what I want to see.
Or maybe it was stuff that was going to drop next week that they said, you know what, let's not even bother wasting our time, just give it away. Like you said, and make it like it's not available in store, but it was just already pre-made. They'd already scheduled the launch, and now they're like, it's just stupid to do it again,
I have a thought or a theory. Remember last year for homecoming, they sent out random items to people to get people pumped up and ready for the homecoming weekend.
Oh, yeah.
My theory is that they're doing this and they're going to send us something that's related to homecoming or in preparation for homecoming.
Ooh.
That's just a theory.
Oh, I like that one. You could be right. You could be right, Judy. That it's kind of mysterious because, like you guys said, it's not. I didn't get the email, so I don't know. But it's not like you get to choose, right? You're just saying, that you're clicking on something to say, yeah, you can send that to me, right? That's
right.
Yeah, but you got to fill in your sizes and everything, so it's,
maybe it's a little more personal because the stuff they sent last year was just really random and it was, I don't know. It's just a kind of junky, if you ask me. But
no, this you had to click through. You had to indicate if you wanted, a woman's item, a men's item, a unisex item, and you had to list your size for a top and a bottom.
Right, because I got it too. I got the link too. So I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Well, let me bring Courtney in. What's going on, Courtney?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to report I only have 5 more of Jessam's strength classes left, as that's my crazy goal to complete her strength library.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
But I wanted to report that I got the email too, and my heart dropped because I was at work, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have just clicked on spam on my work computer. I'm going to get in so much trouble. But then it eventually worked. I think because I clicked on it probably with everyone else, and you had to fill out your Peloton name or your username. So I'm also curious if it's going to be more personalized, with your leaderboard name, and then you had to fill in your size for top and bottom. So I'm curious if it will be maybe to clear out the warehouse, but just personalize it and put some Cricut heat stamp stuff on it, or if it will be something to kind of create more sensation about homecoming, or even the studios opening in the fall, What I also found interesting was around the same time, that same day, on the Peloton Apparel Instagram page, they were like, well, what's your favorite Peloton instructor quote? So I'm curious also with all of that kind of energy, if they're going to bring back kind of the instructor kind of specific like shirts and apparel around homecoming around the same time. So I'm just kind of curious of how this whole Peloton apparel situation is spanning out. And then my last thought is I do believe that they are transitioning to more of these capsule collections. We saw a more streamlined Black History Month collection. It's not out in the US, but when I was looking, because Kirsten posted about the Peloton Mom, but it was Mom, which is the English version. So when I changed to the UK website, it was just like 3 or 4 items for Mother's Day this year. So I think they are perhaps cleaning out the warehouse and moving more towards a streamlined kind of capsule collection for these things in order to just control cost and not be so like wasteful with so many outputs of that. So thank you.
There's a couple things I agree that you said that I think aligns with what Judy said and aligns to a message, one of the messages in the message board that Ty said. This could all be, like you said, just brand kind of celebration of the community, brand promotion, maybe related to homecoming, but maybe just, something an experienced brand does to kind of just celebrate their, an offering to celebrate the community. It could simply be that. When you say that they asked you for your leaderboard name, that made me go, Judy might be right. Like, this is different. They're trying to do something that's that creates some buzz for some reason, whether it be homecoming or just a broader celebration of the community. That got me thinking that could be the case.
I've gotten other free stuff, John, and they always ask for my leaderboard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is my first email of free stuff from Peloton.
Dang. All right.
And they always ask for my leaderboard name. I don't know why. They don't do anything with it. I don't know if they use it to just verify who I am, maybe. That it's tied to the email that they've sent it to. I don't know if that's what they use it for, but they always ask for it.
Oh, well, I hope it's something like that. But now you got me like, I don't know. Let me bring Tanya in real quick. What's going on?
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead, Tanya.
I don't think it has anything to do with homecoming because last year's homecoming, it was globally done. Canadians received stuff.
Yeah. Canadians
didn't receive anything this time. And I'll tell you this much, they're pretty upset.
Wow. That's interesting. Oh,
And I know years ago we still did because I actually was one of the, and I'm sure there's several others that did, but when I hit 1,000 rides, I got a tote bag that had my leaderboard name put onto it. They quit that one. But I still received it in Canada. I had it shipped to somebody in the States, but I still received the email.
Right.
This time that didn't happen.
That's interesting.
So, like I said, there's quite a few Canadians that are not very happy about this.
Yeah, that then makes you wonder, is it, yeah, maybe it's not tied to, the possibility it's not tied to homecoming because of that, right? Oh my gosh, I don't know what it is. I'm all confused. What were you going to say, Lynn?
Oh, I was just, I wonder if, I feel like they've had a greater finger on the OPP recently. And sort of like figuring out what people are complaining about or talking about, and also potentially changing like features on that page. So I just wonder if, there's been a lot of complaints. There's complaints that they can't do anything about because people are going to complain about them, just like the sky is blue or the rain is wet. But some of them are like rewarding members or having like concrete reasons why members are rewarded, which is why I don't think it has anything to do with homecoming, because last year people were mad that it seemed random about gifts, but this gives a very concrete cutoff about something that they care about, metrics and amount of time spent on the app or a bike or tread, and they're rewarding that, so they're incentivizing it without predetermining it. So they're sort of testing again, which I think, like Mike's point earlier was really valid, is I think they're testing a lot of stuff right now based on data to say, what's working, what's not working within the Peloton realm, and let's be responsive to that. So how many people who hit 15,000 miles are responsive to this? And then hopefully, I hope it's a really big reward for those folks, because I think that would then, in a year they go 10,000 or 20, they move it up to 20,000, whatever. But because people complain about the Century shirt.
Right.
John, I think there's a ton of opportunity for personalization. I know Danielle's talked about it before, but I think about some of the rides that have happened recently with, I think, was it North Carolina and was it Duke?
I don't remember who they were.
Peloton bike. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember who they were playing, but you're right. I remember that, and those rides where they had that competition, right?
Yeah, so I just feel like there's so much opportunity for people to have a Peloton UNC shirt or something that can get a little bit more personalization to the group, because there's so many different groups too that are in Peloton. Like I don't know. I think there's this test could potentially bring out whether or not that would work, but I really believe that there is an absolute opportunity with Peloton apparel to personalize things for people.
I love the idea. Oh, I missed Marcos. I was just about to grab him. It looks like he had to drop. Are you there, Marcos?
Yeah, sorry. It kicked me off for a second. Hey, John, how are you?
Doing good,
I have a theory. I got the email. I'm not sure about, I think all the theories could be it. The only thing I thought of was my wife ordered stuff 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't shipped. I'm like, how the hell are they adding more stuff to their shipping line and, supply chain? They can't even get out their normal orders, so they keep tagging on stuff. I'm like, can't you just fix something first before you're trying to do more stuff?
Well,
that's the first thing I thought about.
That reminds me. That was the reason why my original thought was aligned to what Deidre said, which was, this is just stuff they already got sitting in the warehouse somewhere. Because you're right, like if they're already having like supply chain issues, and then you like create additional, distribution of apparel, then like, you know what I mean? Like you just compounded your issue. So that's why my original thought was this must be just stuff sitting somewhere and they're trying to just get rid of it. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm real interested in the first person that gets something letting us know what it is, and what if it's personalized, or if there's something that aligns it to something other than the 15,000 minutes. Also, one other point. I know they say 15,000 minutes on that. I think on that email, right? But I'm not sure that everybody that has done 15,000 minutes got an email. So I got the impression it was more select. No? I don't know.
It was more select, because I think I did like 20,000 minutes, and I had a friend who we were racing and trying to beat each other, and she just said she did not get an email. Right.
So it has a feel of, I don't know, maybe they're just testing it out. Maybe they just haven't sent all the emails out yet. I don't know, but.
Or maybe there's some type of cross between if you purchased Peloton apparel and you got this 15K minutes for us to just maybe buy more. I don't know.
Right. Well, I'm really interested in seeing what happens with it. If any of you guys get what you guys gotta let us know. Go in the group, let us know, join the conversation next week or whenever. Let us know, what is it you got, and what does it look like, and what else can we derive from whatever it is they send you.
I hope it's personalized, though. That would be awesome.
Oh, I hope it's personalized. Oh, I hope that's the case.
Personalized.
I don't think it's going to be.
They're leftovers. I don't think it's going to be either.
I don't think it's going to be. But, I hope it is. That would be nice if it was, though. But I don't think it is going to be. All right. So unless anyone has any more on that topic, I'm going to move on to the next one. That is 4. Wait a minute. Yeah, 4 topics. We are all over this week. You know what I mean?
Better hurry it along. We're losing an hour of sleep tonight.
Ooh, that's right. Okay, so the next one. Okay, did anyone, this is a question because I didn't take this, but did anyone take Hannah and Leanne's 2-for-1 ride? And was it good?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, go ahead, Megan. So you took it?
I did. Hannah's my favorite, so any opportunity I can ride live and I'm home, I will get up and do it. It was really sweet. They have a really good rapport, and it was a lot of fun, similar to Alex and Tunde. They have a style that works well together, and I enjoyed it.
I saw a clip from it, and it made me laugh. So I assumed it probably was pretty good. But yeah, I didn't take it. But that's cool. Anyone else take it?
I did. I thought it was so good. They were super cute. They both had like weave ponytails. They had on the same outfit, even certain points that were choreographed. And I thought the music choice was really good. I was shocked that they played WAP a little bit, but it was fun, and it just brought out Hannah's, her thing about no behavior. And they had like a little Spice Girls moment, which is appropriate for being in the UK. But I was, I don't know, like the empowered music choice for like the women's playlist that they had. It was really good for Women's History Month, and I enjoyed it. And I got up early for it. I think it was like either like at 6 or 7 Central Time for it, and it was enjoyable. So if anyone wants to, I would definitely bookmark it and take it.
Well, in the chat, Leela says, I took it. I was surprised by the song at the end. Is that what the song that you're mentioning? Did you say what was you mentioned the song that they played?
It was the WAP with who is that? Megan and Cardi.
Okay.
So it's that song. But I mean, they played like Alicia Keys' Superwoman. They played Respect. Like it was just like really like like really, really good playlist. But I was just like, oh, we're playing that. Oh, we're going there. It also just fit Hannah's no behavior. And it was just appropriate. Like if you are standing whatever power that is for you and be who you are. So it was really good. I wasn't quite ready for it. And maybe because it was 6 a.m. in the morning. But it was still really good.
It makes more sense to me now. Okay, so Women's History, they're doing the 2-for-1. It's a Women's History Month ride. So of course they're going to play things that are empowering. And at the end they play WAP, which, that sounds like something, Robin does to kind of just, kind of force that concept that, we are in control of what we do, what we say, which I completely appreciate. And it sounds like that was probably the context of why they played WAP at the end of that ride. I like that. That's pretty cool.
I wish they would have played the explicit version though, because the safe version is terrible.
Yeah.
So when it came on, I was like, oh, and then I heard that it was the edited version. I was like, oh no, this is awful.
Yeah, they should have just played.
It was edited. Because maybe my ears are just trained.
Oh, it was the edited version, and the edited version is terrible.
Oh,
Hannah was the first one to play the explicit version, though. She played it when it first came out.
That's why I love her.
Even though Kendall did the Megan Thee Stallion ride, Hannah played the explicit version of WAP. It was like in December or something.
She sure did.
And she was the first one. I believe she was the only one who played the unedited version of it. So.
That's why I love her.
Find her ride from like December if you want to take the explicit
version. I love it. I didn't even realize it was edited, I guess, because I just hear the explicit version. I'm okay with explicit everything. So it was really good.
I can relate to that. I've done that too. Like you're hearing the edited version, and I'm just kind of like singing along to various songs, and I'm singing along the explicit version, and I don't even realize what they're playing because I'm singing the explicit version. I can relate to that. But yeah, I'm with you guys. If they play the edited version, this is about empowering and empowerment. And, this is our rules. We make the rules type deal. That would have made a lot of sense to me had they played the explicit version.
Yeah, but that's not very on brand for Leanne. I think for Hannah, and I love them both, but I don't see Leanne playing the explicit version of that song at Ride.
Gotcha.
I loved the ride. I absolutely loved it. It was joyful and wonderful, but I'm sure Hannah was the one to pick that song.
That makes a lot of sense.
I also didn't realize that they did one last year, I think.
Yes, they did.
Women's History Month. I was going through and I was making a swarm schedule for BGM, and I was like, oh wait, they did this before. Oh
yeah, I took the one last year. Yeah, I that one was good as well. I missed this one, but I took last year's. Hey, Kari, what's happening?
No, I was just going to say, I didn't take the ride, but I know Leanne and Hannah have a pretty good relationship. There's a clip, and I don't know if anybody saw it from Kenny Banya, but Hannah says, "Been all this." Like, have you guys heard that? But it's so funny.
It's hilarious, and because she says his name that way, that's the way I say it now.
Ben all this. That's funny. Ben is a cool dude. I've met him a couple times, and every time, man, he was so gracious and so cool to me and gave me time that he probably shouldn't have to kind of talk. He's a cool dude. I like him a lot. Well, cool. Unless anyone has any more on that topic, I'm going to claim that we did 5 and we can move on to 6. That's halfway through, Tammy. That's halfway through.
This is a world record.
So the next one, I don't know, this conversation might not go that far because it's about the Donna Summer Artist Series, and I think 2 of them got canceled. I know Rebecca did one. I know Ross Rayburn did his class he did, which was a Donna Summers Artist Series class. But I don't know, did anyone else's go? I know Cody's has been rescheduled twice.
Maddie had a run. I did it on demand this morning.
And then Maddie had a run. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. So anyone take any of those 3 classes and have any comments on those things? I mean, I love Donna Summer, so I'm going to be doing one of them on demand.
I did the run. I mean, it was good. Maddie always gives like a little bit of history when he does an artist series. But I think also, I think they've done this before, is like they're bringing in like their own remixes of the song or like exclusive remixes that you can't get anywhere else. I don't know if it's a DJ John Michael thing or some other collaboration, but they made a point to say that these were remixes that hadn't been heard before.
Okay, I'm gonna give it like an opinion here. Okay, you guys can slap me. 2 things that I cannot stand. I can't stand when they do classes and they compile a bunch of songs and you get like a third of the song and then they have to move on because I'm like waiting for my part and it never comes. And I don't like when I love a song and they play a remix version that I ain't never heard before. I don't like either of those things. And when you said that, it made me think, is that what happened?
Yeah, maybe then may not be up your alley then.
Well, that's cool, though.
A few weeks back, DJ John Michael on his Instagram, he was like, you know how he's into all his records and all that different stuff, and he kept posting like different Donna Summer things that he had, and like old footage and like, you know, different sounds that people weren't probably used to.
Right.
Because that was like a passion of his, like he loves Donna Summer.
Right.
So when they announced it, I was like, oh, it makes sense now why for weeks he just kept showing like all these like different Donna Summer things. So that's probably what happened, is that he like got to express, you know, his love through his playlist.
Yeah.
You know, they mixed it up.
Yeah. That makes sense. I know that going back to Tammy, I know that like my context, I guess, probably doesn't play, but my likes probably don't play well to what a DJ just is going to inherently do, right? Right? Like what I just said is like completely contradicting to what a DJ does. That's what they do. Like they mix and they cut songs up and they play stuff over them to make them sound like something different. But I don't know.
Yeah, I remember they did it recently too. I don't know if that's just the direction that the artist series are going now. But I remember they did it fairly recently the same way.
Right, yeah. I see you out there in the messages, Courtney. You feel the same way, right? It ain't just me, right?
Well, it's like they did it for Mary J. Blige, and although I love Tunde, I was like, no, I don't want to hear a minute and a half of the song. I want to hear at least the radio edit where I get a full 3.5 minutes, because I want to sing my part out loud and wake up everybody in the house.
Right.
And I want to like throw my fist in the air when the beat drops.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I understand it being a DJ, and also understanding trying to truncate a large artist with a huge library to 30 minutes, but then I guess I'm the person that like I want to enjoy like the full song, so it kind of irritates me when they kind of chop things up like that. So I feel you.
That's me too. And I see you out there, Jazz, in the messages. That's my daughter, Jazz. I know you feel the same way as me because we've had this conversation. Get my mouth all ready for the whole song, and then they gonna give me a snack. No, I don't like that. Like I don't feel that. But that's just me. Anyway, did anybody take any of the other Donna Summers classes or no? Or anybody waiting on that Cody one? I'm kind of looking forward to that whenever that is. Did they reschedule it?
It's going to be on Tuesday now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll be there. But any other classes did anyone take? No? For Donna Summer? I think we covered both of them, so that probably is it. All right, so that's 6 down. So now we're on to topic number 7. And this one I don't know anything about. So you guys will have to tell me because I don't know what this is all about. All I know is I went to Instagram and I saw Robin Arzon and this bomb advertisement that was like some 30 or so seconds long. The advertisement was the bomb. Had me wanting to buy the clothes, and they was all female clothes in there. So she was in the advertisement for GSTQ. I don't know what that is. She's now an ambassador for GSTQ. So she's in the ad with Athena, her daughter, and her husband's in there, and they have her modeling the clothes and having her in different settings and different lighting. And I thought the whole little commercial ad was off the chain, but I have no idea who GSTQ is, or the clothing line, or who those people are. I don't know who that is, but I know she's now a new ambassador for them. Anybody else know who that is? That company?
The only thing I know is that she used to be married to The Rock.
Oh.
That's all I know.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
That's all I know.
And I heard that the person who owns that company used to be like a bodybuilder. She was like she used to be do bodybuilding or something. So I guess she's a celebrity in that world. But now it's just like big time business person, lots of affiliations to lots of companies. So I've heard that, like that the founder of GSTQ is big name, big stuff. And Robin said that, she's Latina. So I think that relates to Robin being affiliated with them and her pride in that affiliation, to have another Latina that's doing so many amazing things. So I assumed I should know what GSTQ is, but I just didn't. I didn't know what it is, but the clothes look off the chain. At least Robin made them look off the chain. I thought the ad was on point.
I'm Googling it now, and it says it's thoughtfully curated coordinate pieces thread the needle between chic power dressing and iconic sportswear.
Ooh.
So I guess you're comfy, but you look like you put a lot of effort in. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. That kind of aligns, right? Like yeah, like comfy but kind of power clothing. That I can think that kind of aligns with Robin as well. Ooh, that's interesting. So anyways, if you guys want to check it out, there it is. Go check that out. But I had never heard of them before, but I just thought the ad was off the hook. That the ad was the bomb.
Yeah, Peloton better hire whoever did that ad because it was personalized, it was unique, it was familiar, it was family-based, it was hot.
Someone else, it may have been you, Lynn, someone else said that in my group, exactly that, like, ooh, whoever did that ad, Peloton need to go hire them. I thought the same thing. I was like, that's the best ad that I've, with the, from the instructors kind of ambassadorships with other companies. That's the best one I've ever seen. So yeah, that was pretty good. All right, this next one I know nothing about either, so you guys will have to help me on this one as well. And that is new Apple Watch integration. So I guess now they're rolling out Apple Watch integration into the bikes and the treads. This kind of surprised me because I thought that there was already some form of integration with the Tread Plus, or at least the ability for it to occur. And I thought that there was a limiting factor with the regular bikes that made it so this was just not something they could do. I thought it had something to do with gym kit integration, but maybe I am all wrong. So then to hear that now they have integration with Apple Watch And the bike, I was all surprised. I don't have an Apple Watch, so it doesn't really do anything for me. But was this something that others are going to be using, or anybody else excited about it, or know anything about it?
I'm super happy about it. I have an Apple Watch, and I have the original bike, and I've always used the Sochi heart rate armband for my rides or for any classes with Peloton. And this is so much easier connecting than even the Sochi. Sochi is all I have to do is start the app on my phone. I'm sorry, not on my phone, on my watch, the Peloton app on my watch, and then when I start the class, it connects easily. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go into settings, no nothing. And it's just been easy and nice, and I've used it since it's become available.
Wow.
I have a question because mine was super glitchy today. I tried it the first time. Do you also start like the ride, like from the Apple Watch exercise app, or you just do the Peloton app?
No, just from the Peloton app on the watch. I just start. I open the app on my phone.
That's
on my
probably
watch,
what I did wrong.
and then I go to the bike, and whatever class I'm about to take, I start it, and it connects.
But it will still count like in your rings.
Yeah, it still counts in your rings today too, though. Just so you know.
have to do one or the other, though. So you can't do the Apple Watch workout and the Peloton app. It's
That's
one
true.
or the other.
Yeah.
It will shut off the Apple Watch workout.
Well, why didn't
Or
they
it'll
tell
cut
me
off
this
the
this
Peloton
morning?
workout.
Exactly what I did wrong. I tried to do both.
Yeah, no, you don't have to do any of that. It's super, super easy and fast. It's easier than when I would have to connect my heart rate monitor, because sometimes it's like you have to hold down the button on the Sochi and it wouldn't always recognize, and I'd have to do it a couple of times and then eventually connect. With this, seamless. It's just a couple seconds and I'm off on my class.
All right, thank you.
So I got a question then, because I see other people in the chat, like Pat is saying she loves the Apple Watch integration and that she's been using the heck out of it since they dropped it. And it sounds like I heard someone else out here who said the same thing. So it sounds like there's like some extreme value to this, at least for the folks that have mentioned it, which now has me thinking, wondering, do you guys think that this is just a convenience that us existing riders will get from this, or do you see it as like a selling point?
Well, it's good because I've been using it because I have the Bike Plus, but you used to have to hold your watch up to like the logo on the front of the bike for it to sync up. And now this time, like, you just have to do it to the watch. You don't have to go through like trying to get it, waving your hand, looking kind of crazy,
right?
Doing that whole thing. You just go straight to the app on the watch, like they said, and get it done. But it means that instead of it just being Bike Plus people, now everybody has an opportunity, And like I know some people mentioned in the groups that, it looks like Apple might be stepping in more to kind of do a takeover. I don't know about all that part yet, but it just makes it open and available to more people who don't want to have to go buy separate, heart rate monitors, and they want to kind of get a better idea if they like the Stride score idea and stuff like that. So I used it on the Bike Plus and on the Tread today, and it was fine. Just a little glitchy, but
As I said, I don't know if it'll be a selling point, but it's definitely a nice to know. So that may not be the reason why someone buys a piece of equipment, but that'll be one more added like checkbox in the pros column. So if you're going down your pros and cons of why you want to buy a Bike Plus or a Tread, that's definitely going to be in the pros column if you're an Apple user.
Gotcha.
I feel it's almost a requirement at this point. Not necessarily, mainly from the standpoint of Apple being so large and Peloton being such the top-notch brand. It's almost expected, in my opinion. I don't know. I just feel like this is a feature that everybody's been talking about. Almost, I wouldn't necessarily say like a pause button, but it is a feature that everybody's been talking about, and it was the benefit of a lot of people getting the Bike Plus. I remember my friend got the Bike Plus and kept talking about how the Apple integration on the watch was his biggest thing that he liked. It feels like that is, at this point, there's no reason Peloton should not have an Apple Watch integration.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a couple things going on here. I think Apple wants to sell Apple Watches, right? Peloton's a massive base. And if it's integrated, they get to sell more Apple Watches. A lot of Peloton owners probably already have Apple Watches, so that's a good thing for them. It integrates. I think it's also a testament from Uncle Barry that we aren't getting into the wearable business.
Yeah, that is a good point. I was about to ask that question there, Sheldon. I was like, we just They were just telling us 6 months ago that they were about to drop. Well, first of all, a year ago they purchased that wearable company. I can't remember the name of them.
Yep.
And then 6 months ago they were telling us they're about to drop a wearable. And then just and then just like 2 months ago they reiterated that same point. And then all of a sudden Uncle Barry comes along, and all of a sudden a few days ago we get deeper integration with Apple that could have happened a long time ago. It makes me feel like what you just said, Sheldon, is accurate. Like they said, you know what? Uncle Barry came in and said, shut that shit down. We're out.
They aren't going to compete with Apple on that on the watch. They just aren't. I mean, it's a they don't want to get a slugfest. They probably realize we got to start playing nice, because a lot of our users are Apple users and have an integrated system. They just want their watch to work.
Right.
Make them happy. Keep them there. Maybe it brings more people in now because, hey, I can use my Apple Watch in the Peloton bike. Fantastic. That's great. Another reason to buy it.
Right.
And so, and it's also, I think, he sees dumping money into a wearable is you're entering a slugfest.
Right.
There's so many freaking wearables out there, and Apple Watch and like the Garmin's kind of, I guess Fitbit, also kind of own that space. And nobody wants a wearable that's just going to work with their Peloton. They want one that's going to work all day and it integrates their apps and stuff like that. So I just think this is another signal from him that, hey, we're locking down on what we're good at, and we're not going to be messing around with this other bullshit.
So now I'm wondering, yeah, my thought is exactly the same. Like, I think that's dead. So, I mean, I guess validation will be once the Peloton guide comes out, do they actually release the wearable that they said they were going to release? Like, if they don't, then I think that's our answer. It's exactly what we've been saying. But another question I have is, a lot of the things that I've been seeing lately, this being one, feel to me that they have a relationship to Uncle Barry. Right. They all have like this slight feel like there's something related to that. The apparel thing feels like there's a possibility that has something related to the Uncle Barry. What do they call it? One Peloton Club thing with the new pricing model. That feels to me like that has something to do with him. And this feels like it's a direct kind of correlation to him coming in and his demeanor and what he said about, fast as slow as we're going to go. It all feels like this stuff is all related to decisions he's making. I don't know if everybody else thinks the same thing, but I feel like they are.
So I have two questions. One, couldn't they still do their own wearable for people who don't already have an Apple Watch? Because there's a lot of people who don't have Apple Watches. I mean, there's a ton who still have Fitbits and Garmin's. So isn't there a potential to still do a wearable of their own? And then my second part is, will they be like Nike when Nike has partnered with Apple? Because if you get a Nike Apple Watch, you get different watch bands, you get different watch faces. Could Peloton do the next partner with Apple and get specialized Peloton watch faces, watch bands, and so forth?
The bands, right?
They have a band
saw the post
in
about
the Peloton store.
But the bands that they came out with, right?
They have two, but Nike has way more.
The bands they came. What's funny about that is, I think your point was, couldn't they continue to kind of just come out with the Peloton wearable, and it just be another capability that they can use as a bundling feature when you're selling a bike or shoes or something, and then you can gain some benefit from it. I agree with you, like that, yeah, but not in the sense of we're competing with anybody, but just as like another interesting kind of component. I guess that could be, but I do think maybe that happens, maybe it plays that way, but I do think this deeper integration that all of a sudden happened, that could have happened a long time ago, is a statement.
I bet you beer they don't do it.
Yeah.
I bet you they kill it right to the ground. I just don't think it's a ton of money to start doing the app development and all the watch development. And unless it's already, I guess they already sunk cost on the business. Maybe they'll roll it out, but if I had to bet a beer, I'd bet it the other way, that they're going to kill it, and you won't see it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm just gonna say, I'm a diehard Apple fan. I mean, I don't care if they do or don't, but I just was like, crap, I don't want one more piece of equipment I have to buy. I don't want to buy one more thing. I want to wear my Apple Watch on one arm and Peloton on the other. So I'll be happy if they don't come out with it because I have FOMO. So don't release anything else.
No, I think it's going to be too much money, especially with like everything that they're going through now. Because I come from what we call like informatics and healthcare, and people don't realize how much goes into developing apps that are like convenient and connect to all these different things. The amount of like manpower behind it, the different like even if you have kind of like a contract with a company that does one thing, you have to get like more contracts to continue to like expand and to bring in other parts of it. And it can get really costly in the testing and all that stuff, even though it should seem straightforward because everybody else does it. If you're not already kind of like in that wheelhouse, you're going to dump a lot of money. And then if it doesn't go over well, then they just screwed themselves some more.
Right.
So I don't see why they would do it.
And that's what Sheldon's saying. It's like, why are they trying to fight? I mean, it was different than, back, a year and a half ago when the stock price was all through the roof and they thought they were building out the Peloton Output Park and they thought they were about to be Apple. I guess like you can kind of see where they thought their mind was headed to then. We're not in that place anymore. So why are they focusing on something that's not core to their business? Why are they trying to be people that already did this? Like I hear Sheldon, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be so shocked if they just dropped that, to the curb somewhere.
John, you think Uncle B has a sock? Like, you remember Homie Don't Play That?
Now I'm about to make another GIF now off this.
And people say things. He's like in a show in the boardroom, like swinging that sock and hitting people in the head. I'm sorry.
I think I'm about to make a GIF off that.
Please make a video with that.
Yeah.
That should be the next skit. Is Barry with the Homie Don't Play That sock.
You know what? Just because Kari came up with this amazing idea and you asked so nicely, Courtney, we definitely creating this. We definitely doing this. We're going to do a parody and we're going to use a living color and we're going to put
You
Barry
can
in
even
it.
have like the dance cardio usher as the Fly Girls, like the lead-in intro.
This is going to be funny. This is going to work. I see you out there in the chat, Alyssa, laughing at Uncle Barry. You didn't know that was the nickname? Kari came up with that like 2 weeks ago. That's what we call him now. That's who he is. He's like that uncle that always does and says things that make you slightly uncomfortable. That's Uncle Barry. So that's what we going with.
I have a question.
Yep.
With regard to the Apple Watch, and mind you, I'm thrilled now that you can sync up to all things. But does one of the selling points, and I got the Bike Plus, one of the selling points for me was that was the only place where you could have the Apple integration.
Right.
So now, what really, other than a twistable screen and auto resistance, which for many people isn't all that important, that was a big marketing point of the Bike Plus.
Yeah.
I think it's you also have the actual power meter in it, right? The auto calibrate. That's a big deal for people that give a damn about that, right?
Right.
And you also, I think you have better speakers. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, you have better speakers. The monitor's a little larger. The power meter was the biggest deal for me. But now I know a lot of folks don't really care about that. But for me, it was a big deal. Like I just, I wanted to have like a consistent kind of a measurement that I could ensure that if I was somewhere else on another Bike Plus, that I could kind of compare. But yeah, I know a lot of people don't really care about that. But to your question, I think that's the reason that they shot themselves in the foot when they lowered the price down to $14.99 and the Bike Plus was like $1,000 higher. Is that some of those features on the Bike Plus, while some people want them, there are many others that don't quite care as much for those. And with such a large disparity in prices, they started They went from 50-50 split between people who bought the bike and Bike Plus to 75-25, because then it was like, why would I buy that for so many people? Yeah, I hear you. Some of those things are kind of niche, depends on your interests, whether or not it matters to you. I think the screen swiveling, though, is something that the folks in the showroom can sell, even if it doesn't matter as much. I think you can sell that with, but look, you can be off the bike and then you can, but I don't know. I hear you. It's questionable. I hear you. Cool. Yeah, I see you out there, Alyssa. Yeah, we done shortened it to Uncle B now. That's too many words, too many letters. We done shortened it up to Uncle B. On those bands, like that's what you were saying, Danielle. The bands. So they got bands out there that are specific to Apple Watch, right? So I think you were asking, Danielle, relative to could they put out their own heart rate monitor and then sell like removable bands for that? Is that what you were asking, or were you asking about?
No, so like if you buy, so like I have a Nike featured Apple Watch. So like I have access to different watch faces than people who don't buy the Nike version of my watch. So I was curious if Peloton would partner with Apple the same kind of way. So if you have a Peloton Apple Watch, you have access to different screens and you have different bands, which anybody can buy the bands, but you get a different band that comes with your watch. So like my Nike band that came with my watch is different than a standard band that comes with a watch because it's a quote unquote Nike band.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if that would be a direction that they might go in, where they're like, okay, so we're partnered with Apple and now you have like, a Peloton face watch instead of a generic Apple one.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Rather than, a lot of different directions and noise that you might get when you're taking a strength class in the Peloton world, the tonal world, they talk about their classes being more focused. And that's what you sound like you're saying from a tempo perspective would make perfect sense to me. And I think that just kind of aligns to products, these mirror products. I think their content just tends to be more focused. But I saw Geraldine say in the chat about different displays, they're different. Like, I hear you, Geraldine, but the categories are the same. They're about building strength. Or if there's a yoga class, it's about yoga. Or if we're doing, I don't know, whatever the other disciplines are, it's about that discipline. So between those two products, that's the same. If you're doing a strength discipline, it's a strength discipline. So that's why I think you can compare it, because it's about which one works best for you for that discipline. And that's what that review is about. And the reviewer is saying, if you're trying to do various disciplines, you should go with tempo. 2 straight reviews said that. And they said, if your discipline is just very specific to strength only, then you should use a tonal. That's how that was their answer at the end. And that threw me. Like I started wondering, like, is that how the users see it? Like I see folks in the chat that are saying a lot about, they're saying that they love their tonal, and everybody I talk to about tonal, by the way, they all say that. Everybody loves tonal. But my question is more along the lines of, do you love tonal because of the how capable it is around strength, or do you love tonal because of its breadth of disciplines? Right? That's where I was wondering, when they did these comparisons, right? And I don't know if there's anybody out there with a tonal that thinks in that way, like that they love it because of the broad base of disciplines, or is it very strict to strength, which would then align with the review, right? I don't know, but yeah, that's where I kind of threw me. I thought, is that an opportunity for tonal to kind of change how they're seen in the space? Because if they're seen as just, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it that, they're very effective, and you got a trainer. It's very focused. You don't have to go find weights. It's the electromagnetic weight is there. It gives you like spotter mode and all the, I get it. Very strength specific. But is that what they want to look like? Do they want to look like their strength only? I don't know. But that's what these reviews are saying. Anyway, that is topic number 10. I'll try to do this last one just so that we can say we got through all of them. Well, almost all of them. And the last one is Uncle Barry's new hire. He just hired a new chief supply chain officer, and this person is also doubling as head for member services and also triples as their IT lead. Is that normal?
That's a lot.
That sounds like it. Like I don't know if that's normal.
Yeah,
is that normal?
IT really should be separate, but the other two maybe. But IT's really should have its own CTO or CEO. Whatever they call it there.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. I don't know if that's common. I just don't have the expertise to know whether or not that's common or not. But I know they had just released, they just laid off 2 individuals, and another person moved on to another role. And then this new person comes in and is going to be the head for all 3. So I didn't know, is that a positive thing? Maybe it's it's Uncle Barry's kind of path of a streamlined management team, and we're going to, have much more of a focus. There's not going to be just a whole bunch of chiefs. It's going to be a very much more, efficient.
Where is he from, John? Where was the new supply chain guy from? I forget.
I know I can't remember the name of the company. It was a company that I wasn't familiar with, but I know he at one point had worked with Barry McCarthy at, was it Netflix?
Okay, so again, presuming they're becoming content focused, someone, I guess. What would a supply chain guy do at Netflix? I guess I don't know. I'm trying to. I guess when they had DVDs, I get it, but so I don't know. It's interesting. They obviously have a supply chain problem that needs someone that understands how do you get logistics, like get your hands around the throat of logistics with Peloton. Because there's plenty of issues there. I think if the guy's good at that will help. That'll make people happy. I think that's a good sign.
Right.
How do you deal with these third-party vendors? I don't know. That is the biggest bane of their existence right now. The third-party vendors are damaging reputation, frankly.
Right.
In the way that they are failing on delivery enough so that it is certainly recognized as an issue. So hopefully the guy has some experience in solving those kinds of problems, because I think that's where he can make the most impact.
Oh, I found it. He came from Grove Collaborative, which I've never heard of.
Yeah, me neither. It looks like a Home's Good company or something.
They're like the organic products. That one, the cleaning products. Those people.
They have really good cleaning products.
I think you guys are right. I think I'm just like looking it up now. I think you're right. Yeah.
They ship home. More clean, green home cleaning products.
Yep.
Like a subscription kind of thing, I believe.
Eco-friendly home essentials, including household cleaning, personal care, baby, kid, and pet products.
Yeah, the cleaning stuff is really good. It comes with nice glass bottles and
the refillable ones. Is that the one we get like the little tablets or something that you can like make your own?
Yep.
It wasn't tablets. It was like little pouches of stuff, but everything came with like a glass container, and I got a cute little pail that I could carry all my cleaning products in as if I wanted to carry them room to room. Like, I don't know who the hell y'all think y'all just sold this to, but but I did have a cute little pail in case I wanted to be that person.
I mean,
and I think it's a lot for one person to take on, because all those things just seem like kind of different, like supply chain, member services, and IT. Like I don't remember who said it. IT should be separate. Like, it just should be. When you start mixing up too many roles, even if you're trying to like kind of minimize the middle management thing, you could just get yourself into trouble because you're focusing on way too many projects. You're doing too much, and something's going to mess up somewhere. Like, that's just my opinion on it, but, you know.
I'm curious what happened to the diversity at the executive level. Because I feel like John Foley was very much like, we're going to diversify, we're going to bring more diversity into our, executive level positions. And I believe the two that just shown, they're not very diverse at all. So I wonder where that initiative stands now that John's out.
You're right. I mean, like 2 people dropped that, you had a female exec that dropped, you had another a minority exec that dropped, and you're right. I mean, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that may not be the focus anymore, right? They're just Uncle Barry in here, just like making waves.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be the focus, but I think it still needs to be. It still needs to be the focus. It doesn't need to just be forgotten because John has moved on, or John has been ousted, or whatever we're calling it these days.
Right.
I don't think that needs to fall by the wayside.
Right. I agree.
I agree 100%. But I do think Barry's going to pull in people he knows.
Yep.
I think he feels that's his only mission right now.
Right.
If just to be blunt about it, I think he's like, we got to fix this thing. And I'm going to bring in people I've worked with. I know can get the job done. And that's all he's going to do. I don't think he cares anything else, frankly, because that's his mission.
Yep.
He's going to be blinders on until they've got this thing right it up enough so that it's where they want it.
I agree.
But I don't disagree. I don't disagree. It should be a priority, but it's not going to be until things are straight again.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He's trying to take care of a lot of these short-term issues and agree with finding people that he knows that can make this stuff work rather quickly. He needs to turn this ship. He's trying to turn it fast.
Yep.
So I understand that, of course, there's a lot of other long-term initiatives that need to happen with the business and the company. But right now, I'd say he's probably got, I don't know, they probably have a 12 to 24 month plan they're trying to execute at this point.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and I'm with you as well, Dan. You know me, Danielle. That's not a bit, that feels like something that these are always going to be at the forefront. So that's a little disappointing. But I hear Sheldon that I think he's just bringing in his people, and I think that's going to be like I was about to say that's in the back seat. I don't even think that's in the car right now.
If you look at that from a social outlook, I don't know how to say it, but if you're not bringing in diversity in terms of experiences and culture, then how do you change things quickly and grow? You can bring in the same team, and I've seen it done. Again, I worked in companies that were taken over or took over, and they brought their teams with them. I was part of those teams. But when you look around, and it's the same people, same time, or same motive, same operas mirandi, but different place, at some point, that may not work.
Yep.
Because the world is changing to a much more socially conscious end user. So when you don't see the diversity coming in, you actually see it flowing out, then you then have to think about, yes, it's all about the bottom line. I understand that. We all look at our shares. I do the same thing every other day. I'm trying not to look but once a week anymore. But in the same sense, if you're not bringing the diversity in and you're pushing that out because you're just reflective on it's going to be fast and we've got to make it good, well, what's so good about now maybe getting rid of people that didn't know what they were doing in the roles they were in? I can understand. I've done that and would still do that if I was in corporate. But the point of the matter is we're now whittling down to a team of people that may not understand the necessity or the social responsibility that was once part of this company that a lot of us bought into.
Yep.
So I think they need to be very careful about, we can say they have the superstar team, but the superstar team doesn't all need to look and act the same way.
Yeah, I think that I absolutely agree with you there. I think that is challenging because I think, corporation is people, and I think their demeanor is made up of whatever that character is of those people what they put importance in their leadership. Like it's in them. So if your mindset has some relation to importance that's outside of inclusiveness, or has some semblance of unconscious bias, which those two things I think is all of us, like it's everywhere. But if that is the case, then, and you're in a predicament where you don't have to paint a picture of the company, it's just who you are, I think then the company is going to look like who you are. Right? And so your argument is well taken. I absolutely agree with you, Lori. I just think you'd have to be making that argument to people that could hear it. And I don't know if these people could hear that, because I don't know.
They're not going to hear it, John. They're not. And it's because that's been their world, right? So they have that bias. They have that lens of, well, we're doing the right thing because we need to make the shareholders money. We're doing the right thing because we're steering the course. We're steering the ship. And these guys were my guys, or these women were my whatever. But in the same sense, it boils down to the same bullshit, excuse my language, that companies have been using for the past 80 to 100 years, that they're doing the right thing because it's bringing the bottom line. Well, as a consumer, at some point, we have a responsibility of bringing awareness to them in terms of our dollar, and that's where you spend it. So I understand from the perspective of he has his A team, but I think they're doing a severe disservice to what was started 4 or 5 years ago, right? And what the vision of the company was, and the inclusiveness, and bringing on instructors that didn't look like the typical person, or didn't, or didn't have the background of the typical, what we would consider, and I'll say it, white person. And I think they're just doing a great disservice right now by not realizing that and making sure that they're doing something to include a different perspective on what they're doing.
I guess where I was going with that is if that was a value, and because I think you're going to find the same level of talent across the spectrum. So if that was a clear kind of value, and your mindset was open in that way, then your A team would already look like that. So when you went to another company, when you brought in your A team, the people you brought in would be diverse anyway, right? Like that's how it would work. Exactly. Like so that's the point I'm making. If the A team comes in here and it doesn't look like that, I think that tells you something, right?
And I was just it's a deeper issue.
You're nailing it.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say at some point though, the people who are there, who have stayed, whether it's the talent, whether it's the PAs, whether it's, the staff who's working the juice bar whenever they finally open, at some point people are going to say, you're not holding a space for me. There's no one who looks like me in the upper levels. There's no one who relates to my life in the upper levels. I'm looking at all these people who are not like me.
Right.
Like, what happens then?
Right. And I think in a different situation, when the company's at a different place, I think they then consider that. Right now, I don't think they do. But I think had that been a broader kind of individual, their own kind of appreciation for diversity and vision into the value of it, that would have already been the case. Their A team would already look like that. As they move between companies, the A team that they brought in would always look diverse. Like this is how it would be working. The fact that if it doesn't look like that's the case here, if that's not the case, then I just don't think there's anything to be done or said there, because that's deeper than, that's deeper than this. That goes down to the person. Like, I don't, right?
I think you're right. I think it's, again, if he doesn't turn it around, he knows he's fired.
Right.
And it's Uncle Barry's using lizard brain right now.
Right.
It's like, I've got to get the people that aren't doing the job out. I got to get people I know can do the job in.
Right.
And I got to turn this thing around. And because if they don't, okay, so let's just take it back to what John was doing. Again, did a great job building a company up, but then it went to shit.
Right.
a lot of things went to shit.
Right.
And the argument is, whatever Foley was doing, I don't care. His brain is like, okay, I got to do what I think is going to work. That's what I brought in. I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm not agreeing with him.
Right.
I'm saying his lizard brain right now is like, I got to just get people in here to fix the big problems. He's going to he's going to go where he knows.
Right.
Again, but you're right. Don't forget, he was never the head before.
He was never a CEO. That's right.
Always the CFO.
That's right.
Okay, so he's never had to make those decisions before.
Right.
Okay, it's the first time he's choosing a leadership team, really, of this level.
Right, and I think to your point, Lori, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely agree with you. I think I think we can interpret. I think you can read things into what his A team looks like. I guess that's what I'm saying. I think you can.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I think you're right.
I agree. And Sheldon, I do agree with you. He's going to bring in the people he knows. But I will step back and say, as a CFO, he damn well had to build his leadership teams, and his leadership teams probably looked like him. So even in his roles as a CFO, a chief financial officer doesn't sit on the sidelines in the boardroom, nor do his teams get built by the CEO. They are responsible for building their leadership teams. And those leadership teams have high positions in companies. When you're talking, C-level suite, then you go to VP and director. If everybody looks like him, acts like him, then at some point, and to John, to your point, I'm agreeing with you, that's what we're seeing. But at what point does that fail? And I think Danielle brought up a very good point, because when you get rid of all your warehouse staff and then you tell us you can't deliver the goods because you don't have enough people, and then you lose the foundation of the last 2 years in particular of social movements, and you just lizard brain turns a side eye to that, I think there will be some ramifications. I don't know if they're not going to be company going into dire consequences because of it, but the excuse that he was just a CFO is wearing thin on me. And it wears thin on me in every level of a corporation, because you build your teams.
Right.
And either you make them look like you, or you understand that you're not it and you need diversity around you, because the greater the team, the greater the company. The greater your unit, the greater your leadership. If you're a leader, you're not just a boss, you're a leader.
But to be fair, we don't know what his direct teams looked like at his company he was at before, right? We just don't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't.
We're kind of seeing it in what he's doing now, really.
But the people he's hiring now aren't finance people.
No, but what I mean is, it's an intrinsic bias in who you hire. It's built into all of us.
That could be. You're right. Yeah, I'm not arguing that point. Yeah. Right.
So you were saying earlier, Gail. I'm sorry, I missed you. Go ahead.
That's all right. I was just going to say, one of the, which hasn't been mentioned, and I don't know exactly what this person does, but in that same announcement, Sherry Eaton got promoted to Chief People Officer.
Right. That's right.
And the quote that was in the release about, which I thought was interesting, was, "This role will report from Barry. This role will report to me directly because attracting, retaining, and developing talent is foundational to our success." Which to me says they're going to broaden who they hire in terms of all roles.
Yeah, and
I don't know what a chief people officer does. I've never heard of that before.
It's basically HR, I think, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I interpreted it as well, Sheldon. That was an HR role. But yeah, I found that interesting as well. That was a component that rolled under also one of the individuals that was just recently let go. I can't remember his name now. And so yeah, we'll see. That's one I'm not very versed on. I'm not clear what they intend around that. Like I don't know. My mind kind of focused more on these three disparate kind of units kind of merging into one. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what that one really says. I don't know. By the way, I see you guys in the chat laughing about Grove Collaborative or whatever that company is, like they're gonna start selling like cleaning products. That's hilarious. The chat is hilarious. You can like, yeah, that would. I don't know what they're planning to do. We'll see.
I just have to say I'm kind of sad because apparently I need to update my app because I cannot see the chat.
Yeah, you missing out.
I'm having FOMO right now.
You missing out. The chat is hilarious. They out here wilding out in the chat. That is hilarious. But anyway, we run long again. I always take us really long, and then I miss Zoe going to bed. So I'm about to cut it. But this is always like a fun conversation. I always enjoy having this with you guys. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me each week and having these discussions. Again, this will be on replay in Clubhouse. It'll also be on all podcast platforms tomorrow night. So if you guys want to listen to the replay there, that'd be cool. Also, again, I always pose one question from what we heard or learned from the discussion under the post on the podcast platforms. You can only see the question on Spotify. So if you go into descriptions on Spotify, you can see the question and answer it if you want to, or leave a voice message from within Spotify. So anyway, I'll go ahead and close it out. I appreciate you guys joining again. If I don't see you guys on the leaderboard, I'll catch you guys next week. All right? Cool.
See you, John. Bye-bye.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, guys.